Have you ever noticed that there are things in your life that just keep repeating? People, situations, problems, patterns that seem to follow you no matter how hard you try to change. Well, that's not a coincidence. There's a scientific, neurological, and energetic explanation for it. And today, you're going to understand exactly why you attract what you think about, even without realizing it. Maybe you've never really stopped to think about this, but everything you think about the most, whether consciously or unconsciously, starts to silently shape your reality. And no, this isn't some cheap self-help talk. This is applied neuroscience, proven, validated. Brian Tracy, one of the world's leading experts in personal development, once said something that stuck with me. You become what you think about most of the time. And my friend, this isn't just some pretty metaphor. This is literally a biological and neurological mechanism running inside you every single day, whether you're aware of it or not. Let me break this down for you. Imagine your mind works like a GPS. Whatever you type into it, whether it's conscious thoughts or unconscious beliefs, becomes a destination, and from that moment on, your entire mental, emotional, and even physiological system starts working behind the scenes to guide you toward that destination. But here's the serious problem. Most of what's programmed into this mental GPS wasn't consciously put there by you. In fact, according to cellular biologist Dr. Bruce Lipton, over 95% of our thoughts, behaviors, and decisions are controlled by the subconscious, by patterns you picked up in childhood, from your culture, family, and past experiences. And very often, it's exactly these patterns that cause you to attract situations you don't want, repeat frustrating cycles, and live realities that seem to make no sense. Want a super simple example? You know when you decide to buy a certain car, and suddenly you start seeing that exact car everywhere. That's not magic. It's not coincidence. It's your brain activating a mechanism called the reticular activating system. It filters millions of pieces of information and highlights whatever you're prioritizing internally. Now pause and think about this with me. If this works with a car, imagine what happens when, unconsciously, you're prioritizing thoughts of scarcity, rejection, failure, or fear. That's exactly what this video is about. And let me tell you, truly understanding this might just be the key to completely transforming your entire life. By the way, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed a pattern in your life that seems to repeat even when you try to change it? Tell me in the comments. Because when you write it down, you also bring it into your awareness. And who knows, maybe that's already the first step toward breaking that cycle. And that's exactly what this video is all about. And let me tell you, truly understanding this might just be the key to completely transforming your entire life. The selective attention effect. You only see what you're programmed to see. Now that you understand your mind works like a GPS, I want to reveal one of the most powerful and dangerous mechanisms operating in your brain without you even realizing it. The reticular activating system, or simply RAS. This complicated name is nothing more than a neurological filter that operates in your brain, specifically in the brainstem, and it has a very simple job: filter reality. To give you an idea, your brain receives, on average, over 11 million bits of information per second, but it can only consciously process around 40 to 50 bits, which means most of reality is being discarded, ignored, or simply never even reaches you. And the criteria this filter uses to decide what you notice, what you see, what you feel, and even what you attract is pretty straightforward It prioritizes whatever aligns with your beliefs, your recurring thoughts, and your dominant emotional states. Want a real-life example? Has it ever happened that you started researching a specific car, let's say a white car, and suddenly it feels like every car on the street is white? The city didn't suddenly fill up with that car. What happened was your RAS received an unconscious command: this is important. And from that moment on, it started highlighting what was already there, but you simply didn't notice before. Now, here's the critical point. If this works with a car, imagine what happens when your brain is unconsciously prioritizing thoughts like, I'm unlucky, nothing ever works out for me, people always reject me, I never have enough money, I'm not good enough. Do you realize how serious this is? Right now, your brain might be unconsciously focusing on confirming your worst beliefs about yourself, about life, and about other people. And this isn't mysticism. It's biology, it's neuroscience, it's mental programming happening in real time. And it gets deeper. This filter doesn't just decide what you notice. It also influences your decisions, your behaviors, and even your emotions. In other words, you don't just start noticing more of what matches your internal programming. You also start behaving in ways that are consistent with that programming. And that's how, without even realizing it, you start attracting, repeating, and perpetuating the same results, whether they're positive or completely self-sabotaging. That's why, if you want to change your reality, it's not enough to just focus on the outside or try to change your circumstances. You've got to start by changing what's programmed inside, your internal filter, your RAS, your automatic beliefs. And in the next section, I'm going to show you exactly how this cycle stays active, and why, the unconscious loop, how your thoughts create your reality without you even knowing it. Now that you understand there's a filter operating in your brain, here's an uncomfortable but absolutely liberating truth. Every single day you're living inside a feedback loop of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Let me explain this as clearly as possible. Imagine this cycle. Thought generates emotion. Emotion generates behavior. Behavior generates results. Results reinforce the belief that created the initial thought. This happens so automatically, so quietly, that most people go through their entire lives repeating the same cycles without even realizing it. Brian Tracy explains this with surgical clarity when he says, "Whatever is accepted by your subconscious mind will begin to manifest in your reality." And that's exactly why so many people feel stuck in what seems like an invisible loop, where the same problems keep showing up no matter how hard they try to change. Want a real example of this loop? Let's say someone grew up experiencing situations that created a deep belief of rejection. Maybe because of emotionally distant parents, constant criticism, or unresolved trauma. This person grows up with an unconscious thought like, I'm not worthy of being loved. That thought triggers an emotion, sadness, insecurity, anxiety. That emotion leads to a behavior, pulling away from people, building emotional walls, or, on the flip side, becoming overly needy and desperate for validation. The result? Frustrating relationships, abandonment, rejection, which in turn confirms the original belief. See, I really am not worthy of love. And you know what's even worse? The subconscious mind isn't searching for happiness. It's searching for consistency. It doesn't care if you're happy. It cares about proving itself right. It wants to confirm whatever programming was installed back then, no matter what it is. And this explains why so many people try to change their lives by changing external things. They move to a new city, switch jobs, start new relationships. take courses, read books, but deep down, still feel that emptiness, that frustrating feeling of running in circles. It's like trying to change the reflection in the mirror. By adjusting the mirror, it makes no sense. The mirror only reflects. What needs to change is on the inside, in the program running in your subconscious mind. And if you think this is just some personal development talk, let me remind you of an ancient truth that's even written in the Bible, in Proverbs chapter 23:7. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. This isn't just spirituality. Today, it's validated by neuroscience, psychology, and even quantum physics. In the next section, I'll show you how this cycle isn't just mental. It's energetic, it's vibrational, and how the frequency you maintain, yes, there really is a frequency, determines the reality you experience and even the opportunities you notice or completely miss. Vibrational frequency, the forgotten code of manifestation. If by now you've understood that your thoughts shape your perception and your beliefs create unconscious cycles, then it's time to take it one step further. And for a lot of people, this step feels uncomfortable because it starts touching a realm that goes beyond the rational mind, the energetic field, your vibrational frequency. And before anyone thinks this is some kind of mystical talk, let me give you the scientific foundation behind this reality. Everything in the universe, absolutely everything, is energy, vibrating at different frequencies. This isn't an opinion, it's physics. Quantum physics shows that when you observe matter at the subatomic level, there's no thing. There's vibration, frequency, energy condensed into different patterns. Here's the key. Your thoughts aren't just thoughts. They're frequencies. Your emotions aren't just feelings. They're vibrational waves sending signals into the field. And here's the problem. Emotions like fear, guilt, shame, and anxiety operate at extremely low frequencies. And just like tuning into a radio station, you can only receive what matches the frequency you're broadcasting. In other words, if you're constantly living in states of fear, scarcity, complaining, and doubt, it doesn't matter how badly you want a different life. You'll be vibrating out of sync with opportunities, the right connections, prosperity, love, and even health. Want a real, fully validated example? Dr. David Hawkins, a psychiatrist and researcher, mapped the scale of human consciousness, proving that every emotion has a measurable frequency. Guilt, shame, and apathy vibrate between 20 and 50 Hz, extremely low. On the other hand, love, gratitude, and joy vibrate above 500 Hz. This isn't just a metaphor. It's literally an electrical frequency that can be measured. Now, when you combine this with what Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches, and I need to emphasize this, when you align clear intention, thought, with elevated emotion, vibrational frequency, you literally begin to change your electromagnetic field. This means your body stops being just a biological mass and starts acting as a field of emission, attraction, and the collapse of possibilities. In other words, the universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you vibrate. And this is the big misconception behind how most people try to apply the so-called law of attraction on a shallow level. It's not about repeating empty affirmations or pretending everything's fine when deep down you're filled with fear. It's about creating coherence. Coherence between your mind, your heart, and your actions. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. You attract whatever frequency you consistently maintain day after day. And understanding this changes everything. Because from this moment on, you stop blaming others, the government, the past, or even God. And you start realizing that, yes, You are a co-creator of your reality. And here's the good news. Just like you unconsciously created the reality you're living in now, you can consciously learn to change it. And in the next section, our conclusion, I'm going to show you exactly how to start this reprogramming process in a practical, logical, and absolutely life-changing way. The power to reprogram your reality. If you've made it this far, there's no way your perception of life is still the same, because now it's crystal clear, logical, scientific, and undeniable that what you experience isn't the result of luck, fate, or coincidence. It's the result of an invisible code operating within you, your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, and most importantly, your vibrational frequency. Brian Tracy has a quote that, to me, is practically a life law. You are not a product of your circumstances. You are a product of your mental decisions. And the most powerful decision you can ever make is to consciously choose what your programming will be from this moment forward. And here's a revelation that might feel uncomfortable for some. If you don't consciously choose what to plant in your mental garden, life, or worse, your own past, will plant it for you, by default. And what grows by default? Fear, scarcity, insecurity, self-sabotage, the endless repetition of old patterns. Dr. Joe Dispenza proves this in his studies on applied neuroscience. He shows that when you combine a clear thought, your intention, with an elevated emotion, your vibrational energy, your brain begins forming new neural connections, your body starts producing new neurochemicals, and quite literally, your biology reorganizes itself toward a new reality. In other words, thought alone doesn't create. Action without the right frequency doesn't create either. It's the coherence between mind, emotion, and behavior that transforms your life. So now, I invite you to a very honest reflection. From today forward, knowing everything you now know, what do you choose to keep nurturing inside of you? Fear or possibility? Scarcity or abundance? A victim of your past or the architect of your future? Because here's a truth no one tells you, but it changes everything. God gave you free will, but not in the superficial sense of choosing what to eat for breakfast. In the deepest sense possible, the ability to choose what frequency you want to live in. And from that frequency, everything that aligns with it will inevitably begin to manifest. And if you've been living on autopilot until now, let me tell you, it's not your fault. No one ever taught you this. But from the moment you know, it becomes your responsibility. So the question now is, what do you choose to vibrate, to think, and to create from this moment on? By the way, drop it in the comments. What's the pattern you choose to leave behind? And what's the new frequency you commit to holding from this moment forward? Because when you write it down, you're not just declaring it, you're materializing it. You're turning an internal intention into an external commitment. And that could be the very first step toward your new reality.